Some say it's the unofficial start of the NBA season. It's the NBA on Christmas Day, the best games of the day. Can the Wolves or Suns get on track? I love LeBron versus Steph. You will too. Plus, who's the biggest team left off the slate? It's all coming on Locked On NBA Game Night today.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What's up, everybody? Merry Christmas. Welcome to Locked On NBA Game Night, where there were no games to talk about, so we're looking ahead today at the Christmas slate, one of the best days of the NBA calendar. Thank the Lord. There's no goofy sleeved jerseys. It's just hoops this year. And boy, do we have a good slate. Tony East here, host of Locked On Pacers, with, as you know, on these Wednesdays, Wes Goldberg from Locked On Heat. Wes, do you like when the team you cover does not play on Christmas? Do you miss Christmas games? How are you feeling?
Okay, so yes, I prefer when my team doesn't have to play on Christmas, and therefore I don't have to necessarily work as hard on Christmas. But I'm telling you, as somebody who's been in arenas for Christmas Day games, who's gotten to cover the road games for Christmas Day games, it is a lot of fun kind of being part of the spectacle, being part of sort of the marquee showcase of the NBA calendar. But yeah, no, I'm much happier not having to do it.
I'm happy to watch 5 great games with great teams from my house. That seems like the ideal way to consume this. And there are some awesome games. And we'll talk about the teams left off of this. But given last year's best teams, offseason moves, and of course my own affinity for watching Victor Wembanyama, some great games that we're going to run through chronologically here, including the Spurs and Knicks to start the day in MSG. If you haven't watched Wemby because you've been under a rock and this is your first national TV game watching him, have fun. This one's going to be really fun, Wes, and I am looking forward to this clash of the Spurs defense and surprisingly okay offense versus the best offense in the NBA in New York, who have been just absolutely surging since they got their ducks in a row after early season. What stands out to you about what's going to be big in this one?
So look, you're going to maybe, if you're listening to this, you're coming across some other Christmas Day previews of this slate of games and all this stuff, and you're going to find some stuff with smart X's and O's and game breakdowns and previewing the matchups. That's not what Christmas Day is about. It's about sitting on your couch, answering questions from your uncle who doesn't know what's going on in this basketball game. And it's about the stars more than anything. And this game has your star. It has Victor Wembanyama on one side, and it's got Madison Square Garden on the other. We got a Christmas Day game in MSG every single year. And I'm here for it because you got the celebrities, you got Jack Nicholson, Ben Stiller, you got all these, everybody that's always there. And then you've got some big stars like Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, obviously. And so this, to me, is Victor Wembanyama's coming out party. I love that the NBA put Wemby in this spot at MSG. I think the NBA has a problem marketing its young stars and telling you who's next. Agreed. And they're telling you with this game and one other game that we'll talk about later, who's next. And they're saying, like, Victor Wembanyama is next. And you know how competitive Wemby is. He's going to take this seriously. I don't know what we're going to get on the Wemby bingo card. I don't know if it's going to be a 10-block game. I don't know if it's going to be 30 points and 22 rebounds. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be something. And what I'm really interested, Tony, is those questions that you get from your uncle, because we're going to get Karl-Anthony Towns and Victor Wembanyama, who between them, that's 14 feet and 4 inches of basketball player. And they average 14.5 3-point attempts per game between the two of them. So your uncle's going to be like, why are these 7-footers shooting all these threes? And you're going to be like, well, uncle, this is what the NBA is in 2024. It's absolutely crazy. For people who are interested in unicorns, who want a unicorn for Christmas, they're going to get them at noon.
Totally agree. 2 of the best at it, too. Like, Wemby can shoot over anybody at any time, create his own shot. Cat is more, for lack of a better term, traditional unicorn. I can't believe that's a phrase I'm using. Pick and pop kind of guy, more in the flow of the offense. So they get those threes up early. But certainly, 2 of the guys that your uncle will be asking about. One thing your uncle will say is Chris Paul's on the Spurs, and he's been very good recently. And I'm going to use him to transition to the other point guard because I don't think Jalen Brunson has the equivalent star factor of how good he is, if that makes sense. Like, he's one of the best 10 players in the NBA probably, and doesn't get that kind of shine, I think, from fans or discussion in general. And there's a lot of factors to all these things with marketing, and he's been in the league for a long time anyway. But there's a chance for him to kind of put himself on the map again with a big stage and show that, hey, I'm really freaking good. And I think had he made the conference finals last year, that could have happened then too, because that Knicks team was fantastic. And when everybody was hurt in the playoffs, he was the metronome that kept them going. I think there's a big chance for him to, if he has another big game and can just wiggle free for a billion shots all night and score, really change the perception of who he is and how good this Knicks team is. If they win, they'll be 20-10, and Brunson's been their best player this year.
Yeah, there's sort of a Derek Jeter thing happening with Jalen Brunson where, yes, he plays in New York. He is the best player on the team. He has turned the franchise around here a little bit, but nobody outside of New York really cares. And maybe that's just Jalen Brunson needs his World Series win. Maybe he just needs like some big stage thing, and maybe Christmas Day could be that for him. I think that I do think that the X's and O's part of this is going to be really interesting here because you've got the dominant pick and pop game of Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns, a very efficient pick and roll, pick and pop game with Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama. But I think New York is just the better basketball team here. And, you know, they've got the guards like Mikal Bridges and OJ Anunoby, the perimeter defenders that they can use to try to wall off that pick and roll attack of Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama. But they also have Victor Wembanyama, who, when he's locked in, just feels so unstoppable. And then seeing that part of it on the other side on defense, seeing Wemby kind of go in that yo-yo in that Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns pick and roll, how is he going to manage that? All of that space that they create because of Karl-Anthony Towns' shooting and because of Jalen Brunson's wiggliness that you were talking about before, like Victor Wembanyama has the wingspan to just erase a lot of that. So seeing him kind of play those gaps and everything, I think will be really intriguing if you're lucky enough to really sit down and kind of lock in and watch that kind of stuff in this game.
Lots of teams get their game plan blown up because they want to attack the rim all night, and Victor Wembanyama's there, and they can't shoot, and they have to kick out a lot. The Knicks have a nice varied attack, I would say. They have guys capable of getting shots from anywhere. I'm going Knicks by 8 in this one. Second game of the day. The Mavs also rolling, somehow winning games without Luka for a stretch now. Luka is back versus the Wolves, who are decidedly not playing very well right now. If the Wolves lose, Wes, they will go out of Christmas Day under 500. Last year's conference finalists in the West. This is a fun one. Rematch of last year's Western Conference Finals. Ant looks great. The rest of the Wolves don't. Julius Randle under a lot of scrutiny recently in Ex-Nick for defensive effort, fit, efficiency concerns. Can the Wolves get this one on track? Because we all know what Luka does on the big stage. He's going to be ready to go.
Yeah, in some ways it's the rematch of last year's Western Conference Finals. In some ways it isn't, because both of these teams have changed quite a bit. Obviously, Cat's not in Minnesota anymore. Dallas has added Klay Thompson, Spencer Dinwiddie, Najee Marshall, right? A full year of Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington. This is the best supporting cast Luka's ever had. And Minnesota, I don't know that you could say the same thing. It does feel a little bit strange here. Their defense just hasn't had that same bite this season. Now, they have been trending in the right direction defensively. Over these last 10 games, they're actually first in defensive rating in the NBA. So we might still get that thing that made the Western Conference Finals last year so compelling, which was unstoppable force versus immovable object of the Luka Doncic versus Minnesota's defense. And again, the X's and O's matchup part of this is, all right, Luka, he's going to put you in a pick and roll with Derek Lively at center, with Daniel Gafford. What's Rudy Gobert going to do? Is he going to play in that typical drop that he was playing a lot in the Western Conference Finals? Are they going to have him come up closer to the level of the screen? Because if he drops and you're running Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, for that matter, in those pick and rolls, and you're leaving that mid-range open, well, those mid-range shots for Luka and Kyrie are not mid-range shots for everybody else, right? Like, those guys get buckets in that area. And so you're kind of asking for it if you leave them open. So I do think that part of the matchup is going to be really interesting. I think Minnesota can, have Rudy Gobert move up a little bit higher, and then cover up for him behind, but that's going to put a lot of stress on guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, McDaniels, Julius Randle, obviously, who's not Karl-Anthony Towns even defensively, who just had a really good feel for playing off of Gobert on that end. This is going to require maybe Minnesota's best defensive effort of the season if they kind of want to make a statement here, but they certainly have an opportunity to do it.
Yeah, you mentioned the last 10 games for Minnesota where they are first in defense, and back to last year where they're like way better than everybody else besides OKC, who has decided to join them in that crusade. You know what their offensive rating is in that 10-game stretch, Wes? 27th. Yeah. 27th. And Ant's been good. They have nothing else going when it comes to shoot. Right now. No,
they cannot get a three-point shot to fall. The Julius Randle part that you already mentioned has been clunky. It feels like it's getting clunkier. It feels like it's getting worse, not better, which is strange. Yeah, and they don't have, like, outside of Anthony Edwards, they don't really have a second scorer.
Everyone who covers the Wolves, to their credit, has covered this really well. Basically, like once every game, they tweet or post something that's just like, "Ew, this is gross." Like it's what it looks like watching them right now, and they stay in all these games because they get enough stops to never be out of it. But at some point, you got to put the ball in the basket. But Conley's been a step slower than last year, which just makes sense, right? But it just is reality. You mentioned the Randall fit. DiVincenzo on paper looked like a dreamy acquisition for them in terms of what they needed in the backcourt. And I don't think I've seen him make a three the entire regular season. That's mostly in jest, but not really, right? They just don't have that kind of punch. And then they're relying on some streaky shooters or some mid-range kind of bully guys, and that just hasn't worked.
And I think part of it too is Anthony Edwards has developed that three-point shot game, especially off the dribble. And that pull-up three has been so dangerous for him. But on the other side of that, he's not driving and kicking as much. He's not creating that stuff in the paint that gets those open shots for Dante DiVincenzo, Rob Dillingham, or whoever it is on the perimeter. And instead, it's a little bit more like just swing around, pass the ball along the three-point arc until somebody gets a somewhat open shot. So, yeah, they need to change. Like, everybody loves the threes. Everybody says, yeah. Well, not everybody loves the threes, but everybody says, yeah, it's great that Anthony Edwards is taking more threes and that he's a more efficient offensive player. But it feels like it's serving him more than it's serving the offense overall.
I agree with that. I did this with Brunson. Big stage guys I'm happy for. Derek Lively is my pick for this game. He's been super good recently. And I think he's going to not do as well as Gobert. Gobert's amazing, but look pretty dang close in that matchup, making people go, oh, this kid's really, really good for this Dallas team. To me, maybe one of the most underrated players in the league. I picked a winner in the last game. I'm doing it again. Did you want to pick a Knicks Spurs winner before I pick the Mavs to win this one?
What'd you have? The Knicks by 8?
Knicks by 8. And Mavs by 11.
I like it. I like it. I'll go lower margin. I'll go Knicks by 5. Okay. And then in this one, let's get crazy. I'm going to say Dallas wins this one by 11.
I love that. The Sixers are playing on Christmas. They don't deserve to. Plus many other fun games. And who should be playing instead of the Sixers? Before we talk about any of that, though, let's talk about the good people over at Game Time, the best way to get tickets to comedy, sports, theater, whatever you're attending near you. And Game Time is focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better. And Game Time has a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets for live events even easier. They filter out the fluff and only show you the incredible deals that they offer on great seats. You don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. But let me tell you, if you do search through those thousands of tickets, you will not be disappointed. They have curated deals to make it easier to find the best price on great seats. They have super deals, seat views in the venue before you buy, their lowest price guarantee that comes with a credit of 110% of the difference if you find cheaper tickets elsewhere, job loss protection, so many great things. I used it to get tickets to watch the New York Liberty and Barclays Center, and it was amazing because it takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, and that's with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKDOWNNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's Game Time app. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Terms apply. Create an account, download Game Time today, because what time is it? It's game time. And we got to talk to you guys about the great people over at Rocket Money. Rocket Money, the best way to find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you weren't paying for twice and get rid of them. That's happened to me. That's happened to tons of people I know. And you can just get rid of them without having to do it yourself. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money, a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel those unwanted subscriptions, plus monitor your spending and helps you lower your bills so you can help grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year. How about that? For me, one of the best features is that subscription tracker. So many things you don't remember that you paid for or that you might be paying for twice. You can save a ton in that way. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockdown today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockdown. One more time, rocketmoney.com/lockdown. Back here on Lockdown NBA Game Night, everybody. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day. Check out any of the 10 teams we're talking about today. They're a Locked On show. They'll have lots of Christmas preview and discussion action when the games are all over. Your team every day here in the Locked On Podcast Network. The best way to stay connected to your favorite team or any team in the league. Wes, I think if you gave Adam Silver truth serum, he would like to remove the Philadelphia 76ers from this Christmas Day slate. They stink. They're 10-17, even when all three stars play. It's like pulling teeth for them to get wins. And thankfully, they don't play anybody good on Christmas, just the lowly Boston Celtics who can just run through anybody at any time. Do the Sixers have any chance?
You know what? I really wish I could say yes, and I wish I can get excited for this game, but it just feels like, all right, is Joel Embiid going to come up with a reason not to play in this game? He didn't play in the Christmas Day game last year against the Miami Heat, and the Sixers lost that game. And if Embiid is either hobbled or unavailable for whatever reason, then I don't know that I can get excited for Podcast P going 6 of 18 from the field for 16 points and Tyrese Maxey just doing his best in 42 minutes of play against this Boston Celtics juggernaut. And, you know, I'll say this, and this is going to come off as anti-Boston, as it always does from me, but they're the most boring, dominant team we've had in a really long time, basically since the Tim Duncan Spurs. Like, we get it, all right? You have a great defense, you switch everything, you ruin what the other team wants to do on offense, and then you make 23 three-pointers in a game, and you win the game, and you just keep it moving. So, look, if Boston cares defensively, which I would imagine they probably get up for this game because of the, the stage that it's on, then this game is going to be like, no, then Philadelphia doesn't have a chance in this one. Not the way that they've been playing. Now, if you get Embiid and you get him totally locked in, there is the potential for him to have this big night. And you know what? That would be maybe the best thing that could possibly happen for Philadelphia is Embiid coming out on this stage and being like, you know what? I can take these guys. And maybe this could serve as like a jumping off point for the rest of Philadelphia's season where they can maybe climb into the play-in mix. And maybe try to make a little bit of a run here. But yeah, I have no reason to Tony, I don't know about you. I always was giving Philadelphia the benefit of the doubt every single year, every summer, winners of the offseason. This is the year where they can make a deep run. And I think I'm just finally out. And I bet you Adam Silver is out too, to your point.
Yeah, I think that I hit that point early this season too. And it's just like, man, like I thought this big three was the perfect fit. Like potentially an elite team in this league. And they, even when they've been playing, are like, okay, I guess. They're 3-5 when Embiid plays this year, which is wild because all those numbers are very small in total anyway. But it's just remarkable, right? The argument for them in this game would be a couple things. One, they just played the Spurs in like the goofiest, silliest, stupidest NBA game ever, where like there were dumb ejections, people are getting hurt and mad. Maybe
and then reverse ejections.
Reverse it, yes, very rare. I think that's the first one since 2016 I saw, since Boogie Cousins with the mouthpiece. So maybe they're up for that. And when Embiid plays and they win, which admittedly again has only happened 3 times, his numbers have been awesome. 25, 7, and 5 in the 3 wins when Embiid plays. If he plays well, they are still pretty good. Like he's still got that level in him, but just doesn't get hit as much. And the Celtics have good centers, but no one who's willing to just like, I'm going to go mash with Joel Embiid. So, yeah, there's a chance, right? Joel Embiid won MVP 2 years ago for a reason. But like you said, Boston's kind of boring because it's so easy, right? One of my takes on this NBA ratings discourse has been not about the volume of threes teams take. It's just so easy for them to make them. They don't feel special anymore. And Boston is the face of that, right? They can just, any possession, any player can run off a screen and not even
blame
take
the Celtics for the ratings. I'm here for
it. Well, lots of teams are like that. They're so good at it that it's the face of it to me. And because they're like that, if they just hit 35% of their however many they're going to take, good luck. Good luck keeping up, right? So hard for me to not pick Boston by a lot. They're at home too. So I'll say Celtics by 16.
Oh, I was going to go 15. I like it. Yeah.
Well, let's go to what's going to for sure win the ratings battle on Christmas Day in the Bay. 2 teams that were kind of trending in opposite directions or bad directions recently. Lakers a little bit more on track. It's LeBron. It's Steph. Can this be a guaranteed game every Christmas? They've done a great job with it ever since what is many people our age's favorite Christmas game ever, the LeBron versus the KD Warriors in 2016 when they had the stupid sleeve jerseys. But that game made it okay that they were wearing stupid sleeve jerseys. And I still love when these 2 guys play each other. The Warriors quietly, not even really quietly, trending in the wrong direction. Their depth has kind of not been as strong recently. You know, Steph has had 2 games now where he just looks woefully inefficient for some reason. They still have that punch because he's amazing and their depth is strong. And in an NBA where you need lots of depth to play fast, but Lakers have not a lot of mojo, but a little bit more recently. Their defense is still pretty good. What's going to matter in this one? Can Steph get going again? Please, can Steph go?
That's the only thing that matters. It's LeBron versus Steph. It goes back to what I said. This is the marquee game. This is the prime time. These are not the best teams playing today, but they're the most interesting. They're the most exciting, and they're the one that are going to draw the most eyeballs. It's LeBron versus Steph. I don't know what else. Anybody that's complaining about this, I understand that there are two teams here that are not playing for a championship, but there is still stakes here. They're both kind of in the same spot in the Western Conference. Like, this game could be a tiebreaker potentially at the end of the
Huge,
regular season to determine maybe play-in seeding or maybe which team gets in a top 6 seed potentially if one of these teams can make a run at the end. So there's a lot going on, but here's the thing. There's potential here for this game to be the one that we remember when we walk away from Christmas Day, because if we get LeBron and Steph going shot for shot for a couple of minutes in the fourth quarter, that's all anybody wants on Christmas. That's all we're really talking about here. And it's always a fun game when these guys play. You already asked, like, can we get this every Christmas? Yeah, maybe for this one and next one. I don't know how many more Christmases LeBron's going to be playing, or Steph for that matter. He's going to be turning 37 soon. So to me, LeBron and Steph, they're not playing for achievements anymore. They're playing for moments. Whether it's the Olympics or LeBron becoming like the all-time minutes leader in the regular season, or Steph a couple of years ago becoming the all-time leader in three-point shooting, whatever. These guys are playing for moments. And there's a potential here for this just to be a moment that we remember about what it looked like at the end of their careers.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. And also a moment for the league who, again, I hate to bring this up again, but in a league that is searching for ratings, if they both have good games and like put on an awesome product, people will tune in to watch them more. And that's good because LeBron, for all the great things he's done, it's probably one of my favorite players to watch of all time. This is the first year where I think people have been like, oh, he's a little worse, right? Steph's last 3 games, he is 12 for 41. And 2 of those games, he had
I was going to try to guess how many field goals he made. The fact that it was 12 is surprising. I thought it was less.
Well, 10 of them were in one game. And then the other 2 games, he made 2 combined. Yeah. So, I mean, it's been strange. And Steph has not showed as many signs of aging, but currently in a down stretch, right? So this is going to be my favorite game of the day just because I love watching these guys. And they were like the seminal figures of my growing years. But I think this one has a chance to look a little clunky, even though I hope it's awesome.
Yep. Don't overthink it. It's Christmas Day. It's about the marquee. It's about the stars. These are the biggest stars still in the NBA.
Steph's going to get it going. Bron's going to try to keep up, but when Steph gets it going, you just lose sometimes. Warriors by 7.
Wow. I got Lakers. Big game for Anthony Davis, who could be the best player on the court in this one, even though he's not the headliner. I got Lakers by 4.
2 teams that just lost to the Pistons and Pacers that will not be very happy heading into this game as well. Should be fun. Speaking of fun, the late night game is going to be a hoot because, wait, both these teams are kind of sneaking right now. Plus, who should be playing that isn't? I'm coming to defend your honor, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But before we talk about that, we got to talk about FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here. It's not too late to get in on the regular season action for the NBA and the NFL on FanDuel. That's America's #1 sportsbook because right now, new customers can jump on in and finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. How about that? FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. You can hop in and see which players are going to score a touchdown or how many points will each team score. The most thrilling ways to play. And not only can you bet on who will win the game or those kind of things, they have also bets for many other fun things like the first touchdown score, over-unders, props, parlays, all your faves, and so much more. And there's so many great features that make FanDuel the place to do it. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel. They're an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Back here on Locked On NBA Game Night, there were no games, so we're talking about future games as we do. It's Christmas, the best day on the NBA calendar before the playoffs to me personally. Wes, the late night game is very, very interesting to me. The Suns and the Nuggets. The Suns are 500. Man, are they playing bad. Even with KD healthy right now, they're playing bad. They couldn't guard a potted plant. They couldn't guard you and I right now. It looks pretty rough. They're turning it over like crazy. Meanwhile, the Nuggets are 16-11, and every time I watch them play, they're like relying on a clutch miracle to beat a 2-something terrible team. They've lost the Wizards this year. They lost to Portland. They barely escaped New Orleans. They're okay, but they need to be better. Who's going to be better in this game, and can the Suns actually fix this? Because they look really rough right now.
Yeah, right. And fortunately for them, you're right. They can't stop a potted plant. At least they get to play the most dominant offensive player maybe we've ever seen. Like this is what's the over under in the point total in this game? Because it feels like you should just go over whatever it
I don't know,
is.
but I will take the over. Yeah.
Because Denver's defense is going to have a hard time against Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Like these guys are going to really stress out that perimeter defense that's been pretty shaky for them. And then like Yusuf Nurkic, who's the young center on Phoenix? Ogbo, whatever his name is.
Oso Ighodaro.
Oso. Love Oso, even though I can't remember his name. He's got no chance against Jokic. All right. So my thing with Nikola Jokic is it's going to be a test of, I guess I'll just score again in the paint. You've got one of the worst paint defenses in the NBA in Phoenix, going up against one of the best offenses scoring in the paint wise in the Denver Nuggets. On the flip side, you've got a Phoenix Suns team that chews up defenses in that mid-range area versus a Denver Nuggets team that gives up a lot of points in that mid-range area. Again, whatever the over-under is on FanDuel, take the over, people. Like this one could be such a fun game for the end of the Christmas Day slate here. Like this is going to be a barn burner.
It could be a blast. Book has that kind of potential. KD does, Jokic does, and quietly, I would say, because it's been a little inefficient, but Jamal Murray creeping back, Wes. He's had some big scoring games recently, and I think 3 games out of the last 4 for Denver has hit like a vital, crucial shot in the final minute and a half, which is just what Jamal Murray does. And I think that's been really fun for them to have that sort of resurgence from him. And MPJ's been good this year, despite being in whatever sort of trade rumors he might be in. So their offense can hum. There's a reason it's top, I believe, 7 in the league, top 6. And obviously Kevin Durant can just end your life at any moment. Turns out when you're 7 feet tall and can score without jumping, you're going to win a lot of games. So I agree with you. This one's going to be a barn burner. Phoenix is so interesting to me right now, right? The whole idea of them was simpler stuff with Budenholzer, new point guards. They're not going to turn it over as much. And right now they're turning it over like crazy, and they can't win games. I think if they can take care of the ball or the Nuggets don't pressure them enough, I think they've got a good chance in this one. But I've said that a lot. I got teams playing the Nuggets, and then Jokic is like, yeah, this game's super easy for me. I'm just going to walk backwards towards the basket, and we'll create good shots that way. And it works. So I think there's a lot of stylistic stuff that makes me think the Suns could do well in this game, but Jokic has been the best player in the league this year. I'm not going to say MVP because they're not playing that great, but I think he's been the best player. So Nuggets in a close one, but I think if Phoenix can clean up their turnover stuff, they've got a really good shot.
It's a great call. I still think that I'm like you. I have the Nuggets just because they have the best player on the court, and it just feels like they have more ways to win in this game, where it just feels like Phoenix's best players just all have to go nuclear for them to win this one.
Yeah, no, a role player has to be good for Phoenix too, and that's been really rare for them this year. Nurkic was kind of their hub last year. He's not this year, so he doesn't have as many of those big nights, and all these guys that are pretty good for them are just kind of up and down. Wes, what are we doing? When the best team in the West last year, who was favored by some to make the conference finals and is certainly ascending and should be a team in front of as many eyeballs as possible because they're going to be good for like the rest of my life with how many draft picks they have. Why are the OKC Thunder not playing today?
It's a great question. And look, we can have our quibbles with Philadelphia being involved in here, but before the season, you can't. Or it's Joel Embiid. It's a big market. It's Philly versus Boston. There's history between those two franchises. You want to kind of get that Northeast quarter going here, and they won the offseason. So yeah, it doesn't look great. You can't really flex teams on Christmas. You can't just tell a bunch of people in a whole organization, by the way, you're playing on Christmas now. It doesn't work that way. But yeah, you know what? The Thunder were also a team that everybody pegged as maybe the best team in the Western Conference. The fact that they're not playing, you could argue that maybe they should have Minnesota's spot, right? You could argue that maybe they should have that Philadelphia spot. You could argue that they should have the San Antonio spot, except I do appreciate that the league is trying to elevate Victor Wembanyama in this way and showcase this talent. But yeah, it's a tough blow for OKC. Like they should be featured here. But look, you know what? If you make the NBA Finals, if you win your conference, you are guaranteed a spot on Christmas Day the next year. And if the Thunder are that team and they are legitimately the best team in the Western Conference and most people are right and they end up making it to the NBA Finals, then they'll be playing on Christmas next year.
Yeah, the arguments I have all kind of get their holes poked in by when you think about what these teams were, right? Like Wemby is the young. I said, oh, this is a young Thunder team. Everybody wants to see him. Well, that's what they're doing with Wemby. The Knicks are a lock. The Mavs made the finals. right? The Celtics won the finals. LeBron and Steph were a lock. So I guess you could say the late game, but that has to be two West teams. So could you have argued OKC over Phoenix? But Kevin
That
Durant
would be
still
the
has
one.
that. Kevin Durant still has that pull, though, right? Amongst
He does.
fans, and the Nuggets are really amazing. So it's hard to figure out who you take out. Obviously, right this second, everybody would say, get Philly out of here, or maybe even Phoenix. But it's really, that's what's really tough. Had OKC actually made the conference finals last year, I think this would be easy. The Cavs are going to say we should be on there, but they snuck through an ugly first round series and lost in the second round. The Cavs have a great shot of being playing on Christmas next year if they keep playing like this. The Bucks, I saw Giannis was upset that they're not playing on Christmas. Don't lose in the first round 2 years in a row, although they did roll through the NBA Cup and he is certainly a big national draw. I think OKC got the biggest snub, but I do get why some of those teams I just said might be like, hey, what about us?
And look, the NBA has gotten their flack for not elevating these players like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but they're putting Luka, they're putting Anthony Edwards, they're putting Victor Wembanyama. They were picking and choosing their most interesting stars, and I love Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's going to be on MVP ballots again. He's not a very interesting player. Anthony Edwards is out there and he's interesting. He's got megawatt superstar power. Victor Wembanyama, same thing. Like, again, Christmas Day isn't for diehards. Christmas Day is for casuals. Casuals don't care if Oklahoma City Thunder are good. They don't. So
they're about to.
They could act like they were snubbed. They're about to learn. And you know what? If you're a year late on the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander Oklahoma City Thunder stuff, then you're a year late. But the NBA has to worry about their ratings. They have to worry about business. And you already said it. LeBron sells. Steph sells. Kevin Durant sells. Nikola Jokic, even though it's not his Christmas because the Serbian Christmas isn't until January, he sells. Victor Wembanyama, Anthony Edwards, these guys sell. Okay, that's what this is all about. And I am excited for this slate. I really am.
I think next year, barring any crazy playoff runs or big roster moves we can't foresee, I would guess Cleveland is in for Philly and OKC is in for Minnesota. But I suppose that there are reasons that those could change. And of course, the Bucks could be the wild card that just maybe Giannis has a supernova playoffs and says, hey, we're back on Christmas, baby, because he still does have some big draw too. Wes, did we pick? I said Nuggets by a little. You got to do that before we're getting everybody out of here.
I'll go Nuggets by 3.
Yes, I think that's going to be a close one too. Tomorrow, lots of games, 10 teams to talk about, 5 games, Nick Angstad, and I forget who else because I've been paying very close attention to our game night schedule. Clearly, we'll break it all down for you right here on Locked On NBA Game Night. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. See you tomorrow.